I mean, certainly the work we do and the clients we have tell us this, that they're looking for more than the labor arbitrage, because in labor arbitrage they still have to worry about managing. They are exposed to the raw impact of turnover. Knowledge retention is poorly or typically inadequate, and it needs to be repeated once attrition occurs, and they're seeking to get something more. But I guess it gets to the challenge then that they're obliged to define an outcome, right? Which it can be a challenge, right? You know, whether it's a deliverable, whether it's a milestone, whatever it is, and it's not just the sourcing person, but it goes back all the way to the business buyer.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Is there anything anything you want to say about that? I mean, how do you help people? They really need help. They really
Sure.
do, and so I'm wondering how you help them out in understanding some of the challenges and meeting them.
Sure. I think that part and parcel is establishing up front the differences in the models of outsourcing.
Yes.
Is that either you're buying labor,
Right.
and then you carry the responsibility, you're managing the deliverables,
Right.
and our only value add, which is not a great one, if you're buying labor,
Right.
is sort of supplying and hiring the people.
Yeah.
Or you are after a specific business result that you can evaluate and understand, what value it is for you.
Right.
And you can articulate it, you can measure it, and in that case, the methodology is different. We'll take the risk, we'll take the leadership, we'll manage the people,
Yeah.
and we'll deliver the result, and we'll sort of do all of the other various things that will offset the risk on the project and retain the knowledge and allow us to manage the project correctly. A lot of times people don't take on account the fact that when the project is done by their own personnel, they're managing their incentives, their career path. When the project is done outside of the company, someone else's,
Yes.
there's almost no control.
Right.
The situation in this case means that whoever is managing that labor also has to provide for their career path appropriate incentives if they're successful in order to minimize turnover.
Correct.
If the relationship is purely off of a labor card, it's practically impossible.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
If the relationship is based around delivery of a specific result and there is remuneration that's tied to that, the outside vendor, ourselves in this case,
Right.
have a lot of other different means of retention, from financial,
Right.
where we share our own added value that we've derived from the project, from being with the actual personnel,
Sure.
to career path, because we provide a lot wider range of services, business analysis, project management in this case, methodology work that we're doing with the customer. So there are a lot more possibilities to grow. And I think just purely from job satisfaction point of view, it's a lot better for someone, especially a technical person, to be responsible for the result rather than just supplying themselves, for what in effect could turn out to be just a micromanaging set of instructions from overseas.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, I think, as you say, there's nothing inherently wrong with labor arbitrage if people understand the limitations of it. I think when they run into problems is they expect outcomes to occur that can't really be delivered in a labor arbitrage setting. Let's say, for example, they expect process improvements to a high level of the CMM standard, but it's impossible, of course, I mean, in a pure labor arbitrage, except, of course, if they are themselves operating at a very high level. So I think that's where people get hung up. Yeah, well, of course, very few people are indeed, yes. Yes, but it's very interesting. And we do see really a great deal of interest in this. And, of course, the vendors are pushing it, too, because it's good for them as well. So, you really need to have a win-win.
If I may ask you, you obviously you talk to a lot of customers. the customers that are talking like that, when they're saying, okay, we want something more out of a relationship than pure labor arbitrage, we want the result, we want the vendor to take more risk. I've heard that a number of times.
Oh, yes.
Do you think they really mean it? Do you think they understand the implications of the fact that that typically would mean that they would have to, in effect, give up more control?
Yeah, I don't know that they always fully understand that, because I think that the labor arbitrage mindset, the idea of staffing is highly ingrained, not just in the customers, but in some of the vendors as well.
In the industry, right?
And I think they don't recognize the extent of the change in their own behavior, in their own governance of an outsourcing supplier, and as well as the possible need to, let's say, evaluate the way they currently organize projects, teams, and whatnot, and be willing at least to consider evolving that structure in order to create more opportunities for outcomes. So I think that it's not that they're willfully ignorant, but I think their experience has always been managed to resources as opposed to managing to outcomes. And we hear a lot that people, there's really not a book to read that brings you to that conclusion. And so I think it's fallen upon the vendors in many cases to help and educate the customers as to some of the challenges and some of the solutions. So I think it's a fair question. And in fact, in some cases, I think the way that customers can progress most rapidly in this kind of world is with the help of a trusted supplier that they are comfortable with and working intimately with, but at the same time willing to meet them halfway in a very, not a very aggressive in a negative way, but a
energetic,
in a good,
with
solid governance structure. So that's some of the things we've seen for that's
that's sort of our experience as well. As I think a lot of people are extremely interested in our value proposition, but it takes a certain amount of education and commitment to be able to go the way that we're trying to pull everyone.